We're being told that Nirav Modi now has been arrested. And Nirav Modi having been arrested in London. These are the developments here coming in. Remember, this was an arrest warrant that was issued against Nirav Modi by a London court. He's now been arrested in London. We have with us our consulting editor Vinay Tiwari getting us further inputs here on a huge development here that is coming on this case.
So this is pretty much the first step in a long winding process that lies ahead. I mean, the fact that he's been arrested is similar, almost similar, or perhaps exactly the same process that was followed in the case involving Vijay Mallya, where he too was arrested, produced in a Westminster court, and then granted bail, which is perhaps likely going to happen in this case as well. He will be produced in the Westminster court. Because remember, the extradition process that the UK follows has to undergo 3 distinct steps, and this is just the first of those steps. And I'm assuming that since he's now been arrested on the basis of the details and the specific information that the Indian government has provided the UK authorities, he will now be produced and will be bailed out for him to contest his extradition process in the lower courts of the United Kingdom, sir.
All right, when I stay on with this, of course, as you're saying that this is a process to be followed. He could be given bail. He would be applying here for bail. But also, let's get in a voice here. Senior advocate Ms. Geeta Luthra with us over the phone line. Appreciate you being with us, ma'am. In these major development that has come in here, of course, a very clear sign that the Indian authorities have continued to pursue on this.
So, it was expected once it had been certified by the Home Secretary and sent in to the Magistrates Court that in routine he would be arrested. I also think that as in Mr. Mallya's case, Vijay Mallya's case, it's going to be a matter of fact that he should get bail and most like that bail should follow, I believe, almost forthwith. So obviously it's part of the process, and in a sense, it has taken a long time for them to reach this stage, because the Indian government's request had gone a long time before. The Home Office has taken a long time to certify. Sometimes it takes time because they are not happy with the documents which have been given and they want more documents. So first the ministry here looks at the documents and sees if it's satisfied. Then it goes to the Home Office in England and they see if they are satisfied or if they need anything further. And then it must have been certified. And that's how it's gone to the Magistrates Court. So I'm sure he's going to say that he is going to oppose the request and also apply for bail. And to a large extent, unlike India, you can't read anything into getting bail because the grant of bail is more a matter of course in the UK, for example, or the US, rather than in India, where after extradition request, it would be more difficult to get bail in India. It's not the case in the UK.
That's right. And as, of course, Ms. Luthra, you've been explaining that this is going to be taking procedure would, in fact, a predictable procedure that is to take place here on this, very similar to what we've seen in Vijay Mallya's case as well. Vijay Mallya's case only now has reached this stage wherein which his extradition has been approved only recently and is now pending in the UK's Home Office. So Nirav Modi's case would be taking exactly the same route and it would be quite some time, presumably several months till we finally have him brought back here in India to be tried by Indian courts?
I would expect, first court, then second court, then Supreme Court. So it's most likely it would take 2 years to 3 years, unless for some reason it's expedited. Because some of the defenses are bound to be similar. So it's not a political arrest, so it is a legal arrest. or for offences, including ED offences or CBI offences. And therefore, it's according to me, the defences would be very similar. And it will be a different judge.
Right.
So they'll have to hear, the whole case would have to be heard on merits with the defences. And I think it's the Westminster Court is where I've heard it's been filed. And therefore the defences are bound to be the same, that they don't expect justice or they don't expect or don't think that the due process would be there. And the English courts will definitely examine it. They may overrule it, they may accept it, but they will have to examine it and therefore take their time.
Okay, but also Ms. Luthra, as has been reported in certain sections of the media here, that he's believed to have started his whole new business there, living in Soho. Will this arrest and a bail granted and then moving on to the next stage here, will this have an impact here on whatever work and business that he's now started in London?
I don't think so, because what he would be seeing is 2-3 years into the whole process of first court, magistrates court, leave to appeal, the Supreme Court. And therefore, if you're looking at 2-3 years and you don't know what will happen at any of the three junctures or three steps, then I think it would, in a sense, be business as usual, because most likely he's likely to get bail.
All right, please. I apologize for the interruption because we're getting in more voices here on this. Also getting in a word here from former CBI Director, Mr. AP Singh, with us on the phone line. Appreciate you being with us. This is the first major development from your experience. What are you expecting next now after this arrest?
Vijay Mallya way, which is that, there's a process to be followed, and it will be the same extradition proceeding processes. That's what I think, but I'm not aware of exactly what developments have taken place in court. I mean, if he has been arrested, has he been given bail, which I presume he would get, and then the extradition proceeding would follow, which would be very similar to what is happening in Mr. Mallya's case. So it's
he's of course to quickly update you on what's exactly happened here. He has been arrested. He's to be produced in court there, which would be 3:30 p.m. Our time here in India. Nirav Modi is going to be produced in court in about 25 minutes here from now, and a confirmation here that he's been arrested. So, Mr. AP Singh, are you also of the view that this is going to be taking a predictable route? He, of course, is going to be using his rights of asking for bail, applying for bail, getting it. The case being scrutinized in 2-3 stages before we finally have the go-ahead from the authorities in UK that he be extradited to be tried here in India. Again, we'll be looking at a process of 2-3 years then.
I would, as I just said, I would expect it to follow the same route as Mr. Mallya's case. And that would be the time frame that would, be entailed in this whole extradition process. It's not that, he's going to be arrested and sent back to India tomorrow. So, because in England, you do have a legal process and that they have to follow it.
That's right. And one, of course, has to keep much patience because this does not take any less than 2.5-3 years' time of what we've very recently, of course, seen in Vijay Mallya's cases, and whatever arguments and excuses there that were brought forth by his legal team on this being a motivated case against him, jail conditions in India not being up to the mark, not following certain standards, and all of those arguments that we're going to be hearing here, perhaps in which his Nirav Modi's legal team would try to bring in certain excuses. Stay with us, please. Also getting in certain political voices. Mr. Majid Memon of the NCP with us on the phone line. Appreciate you being with us, sir. This arrest, of course, now coming about at a time when the opposition parties have continued to attack the government, saying that they're not doing enough, and he's been arrested now?
Arrest was an obvious fallout of the proceedings with the issuance of warrant by the trial court. But, from August, when the request was already made to British government, why did it take so long? Why it has taken 9 months? This should have happened in less than 2 weeks. So in any case, there has been delay on the part of the government in showing keen interest in securing the presence of this man and pursuing the process.
Right, but Mr. Memon, with your experience as a senior advocate here, one perhaps would need to take in account that there is a lot of back and forth in cross-checking documents being in place and certain further issues that are being raised from the other side here to finally bring about that formal arrest.
No, let me tell you for your information that in fact I have conducted extradition proceedings on the soil of UK in another extradition matter of famous film personality Nadeem Shaifi. And there we found that once the request was made within a month's time, this step of getting the man stranded in that city and asking him to execute a bond to be bound by condition to the court happened within a matter of a fortnight. Why in this case it has taken 9 months? Now, Telegraph reporter from local London exposed that he's strolling in the streets of London. So things were lying low. Things were literally stranded. Everything activated only thereafter. So that is why we blame that is it that at the time of election, the Modi government wants to have a kind of undeserved feather in its cap by saying that, look here, let them get Nirav Modi. Nirav Modi should have been back here by now if it has taken 2 years. What has it? From January 2018, this man is absconded. We have completed 15 months already. The initiation of extradition proceedings.
Mr. Memon, are you saying that this has been a strategic delay, so this arrest comes about just 2 months before elections? Is that really possible? Because you're dealing with authorities of entirely another country here.
Is that the government does not want to vigorously follow against this man. Maybe that he is enjoying the sympathies of some of the people in the government. Number two is that the government now activates everything so that they can campaign. And Mr. 50-60 chest Prime Minister would say that, look here, we got him arrested. This arrest is meaningless. This man will now be immediately released in another 15 minutes. Just watch. And that's just a formality.
But Mr. Memon, it does set the process. It sets the process, it starts the entire court process before we finally reach that stage that the authorities there agree with the extradition. Vijay Malia's extradition there that has been accepted and is still pending in the UK's Home Office then.
No, but this stage which we have reached today should have been reached in beginning of 2018 when you found out that he is in UK. Why did it take a year? This is the question.
Mr. Majid Memon, appreciate you speaking with us, a senior advocate there, also of the view that this is a process that should have been kick-started by the government perhaps much earlier last year itself, and this has been delayed. But predictably, from what a lot of legal voices here have told us, that this is once again going to be taking about 2.5–3 years, as has been case in the case of Vijay Mallya as well. If Nirav Modi's legal team goes about and posing those impediments that his case here be heard in terms of human rights, in terms of the case being, the allegations being fair against him. Mr. A.P. Singh, the former director of the CBI, is still with us over the line. Mr. A.P. Singh, from what we are now observing in both these cases, both in Vijay Mallya's case as well as Nirav Modi's case, that the very fact that when you have someone escaping the country, it only becomes that much more difficult to get them back to be tried back in India. So, do you think there are going to be questions raised back to having nipped this case, having caught this in the right in the nip of the initial stages itself, in raising those red flags when it mattered, in not having them leave the country?
Yeah, yeah, you're correct there. Prevention is always better than cure. So if you could have prevented them from leaving the country, that would have been better. But extraditions are not extraditions and deportations. We have had successes from other countries. Dubai is a recent example. US and Canada have been quite cooperative. It's only the EU countries and UK that we have a problem because they lay a lot of emphasis on human rights and the process. Now, in this case, the only good thing is that human rights and jail conditions have already been discussed in the Malia case. So maybe that will not be an argument that the lawyers of Nirav Modi will be able to put forth anymore, because that has already been established in British courts that the Indian jail and human rights conditions are quite okay. So that may speed up the process a bit compared to the Malia case.
Oh, that's an interesting point that you've made here. Irrespective of whichever prison that the Indian authorities say that Nirav Modi would be taken to back home here, you do not feel that issues along similar lines that now could be raised by Nirav Modi's legal team?
Yeah, I think so, because or even if they raise it, I don't think that the British courts will give it much credence, because they've already established in Malia's case that the jail conditions in India and human rights are quite okay.
Yes, please stay on with us as we're going to be continuing to getting in further inputs and reactions. A very quick update here for our viewers. Nirav Modi has been arrested in London. This is, of course, based on the arrest warrant that was issued against him, particularly pertaining there to the PNB case. And he would be produced. He would be produced in court there in London, 3:30 p.m. India time, in about 15 minutes from now is what we're given to understand. He's to be produced in court in Westminster Court itself. This is a reminder of procedure that has been followed here in Vijay Malia's case as well, and that is why immediately you have these parallels being drawn. In how much time would it really take? Remember, Vijay Malia's case has now, as we speak, almost reached the last stage, wherein which we've gone through the entire rigmarole of him asking for bail, getting bail, using all his legal rights there to delay his extradition as much as possible. And now that his extradition, Vijay Malia's extradition, having accepted, it is still pending in UK's Home Office. So the question that we are also looking at here is, can Nirav Modi's case also be taking as much time? If this is the procedure which will be followed in London courts, and his legal team, of course, would be putting in as many impediments in the procedure to delay that, would this also be taking as much time as about 2.5 to 3 years to finally get Nirav Modi back home here in India to be tried in Indian courts? It has taken as much time in Vijay Malia's case. We still, of course, need to see on what is the legal argument that would be put up by Nirav Modi's team there in proving his innocence, in saying that these are motivated charges against him. All of that, of course, still needs to be seen. But it's also important to note that the Indian government has been at it. Many, of course, have questioned that this should have come in earlier. This should have come in earlier in 2018. The arrest could have come about last year itself. Did the Indian government sit on the case and delay it? Why the arrest now, just 2 months before the election? We're getting in further breaking inputs, and this is as per CBI sources here saying the process of extradition of Nirav Modi is on. Of course, it is on and will assist the Crown Prosecution Service. The next date of hearing has been set on this as well, being 25th of May. The CBI is confirming that yes, we have been informed of the arrest, and as far as the extradition process there is on, it is on as well. The CBI would be assisting the Crown Prosecution Service here on this. Next date of this hearing is to be on the 25th of May. So this is now having set the ball rolling. As far as Nirav Modi's case now is concerned, it has entered the legal process and set the ball rolling here. However much time that it would take for this process, we are going to be getting in updates here on this as per eventually what is being decided in different stages. This is just the first stage in different stages there of the legal process there in London. This is a confirmation now that of course is coming in from sources within the CBI that they've been confirmed of this arrest, and also an assurance, so to say, that the extradition process here is underway as well.
A fugitive, economic offender, he has looted the public sector bank, Punjab National Bank, and he has fled away from the country. Now, it created huge uproar in the country, questioning Mr. Modi and his government. Finally, the Enforcement Directorate, it is reported, has arrested him, and it would produce him before the court in London. We'll have to wait and see what UK court is going to do, whether UK court will hand over him to ED to take him back to India and make him stand before the law of the land. We'll have to wait and see. There are many ifs and buts. Now, there are questions also. How could he go away from the country? Who allowed him to leave the country after looting, after robbing the people's money from a public sector bank? Mr. Modi has to answer that question. Then, how much time it took to find out where he is? Mr. Modi should explain. Now, finally, when the country is getting ready for general elections to parliament, now ED could manage to arrest him, and ED is going to produce him in the court of law in London. And what exactly is going to happen, we'll have to wait and see. And it should not end up as a political electoral election gimmick, just to hoodwink the Indian masses, Indian people, that Chowkidar Modi has been taking strong action to get these fugitives. Why it did not happen in case of Vijay Mallya, and why it did not happen in case of others. So that is why the timing and everything will have to be considered, and Mr. Modi will have to explain, will have to answer several such questions.